Hello, friends. Welcome to another podcast. My name is Dr. Jason Wiggins, and I am your Gen Z and Millennial expert. Today's date is March 22nd, 2021, and happy Monday to everyone. I know everybody loves Mondays and looks forward to it, but there are some people, believe it or not, that just don't really like Mondays. But I can tell you, I'm definitely not one of them. Mondays is a great day. It's a day we can plan for the rest of our week and to have a successful week. It's basically getting started on the right foot. Our podcast is about Gen Z and millennials and those that lead them. Our podcast is typically Monday through Thursday, and we prepare and take off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but then we're ready to get back to you on Monday for another exciting full week of learning about Gen Z and millennials, about how to motivate, how to better prepare, and ultimately our goal is to be able to provide content that will get you excited about the day, find out how we can better ourselves. And that is really what I think anything is, from self-improvement to team building to organizational improvement. It's about everybody taking a step forward to being successful. It starts with being successful in our daily lives, our personal lives, our professional lives, our family lives, and then carrying that on to our work, our organizations, and being successful while we are on this earth. So it seems like it's a big ordeal about how we need to be successful, but it's not. It's just taking it day by day, strategically planning. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's going to talk about expectations. I mean, think about this. As individuals, do you ever wonder maybe your expectations on others might be over exaggerated or something that is not capable of being achieved? Sometimes our own expectations on ourselves can then lead to our expectations of others being something that seems like it's insurmountable. And that's really where you need to let go of the expectations of others. Think about, we all struggle at some level with living up to expectation of others. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Not only living on the expectations of others, but the expectations that we set towards others. And then we're going to talk about some tips on how we can improve the way we think and maybe how the people think about what their expectation is of us. It begins from the time we're born. First, our parents are establishing rules for how we should behave. Then we go to school. They have standards from educational and goals of how we need to live up to. And we can only advance to the next grade when we meet them. I always like to share the story about when I was in first grade. I remember the teacher telling me, if you have poor penmanship, you'll never be successful in life. And I thought, okay, that seems far-fetched, but I was first grade. So I always tried to really write really nice. But back in first grade, that was in the 1980s. And the last thing we were thinking about then was penmanship, or I should say computers. Now we have computers. And so guess what? My writing, my penmanship is still not good. But fortunately, my grammar is far above where I should be. And penmanship on how I write is still poor because my letters have never been good. My cursive's never been good. My print's never been good. But I can utilize a computer, and that helps me write legibly. So basically, the expectation was I needed to write a certain way, And unfortunately, I didn't meet those expectations. So now we think about when we get a job, our employers expect certain things of us. Eventually, we learn to develop our own expectations of how others should behave. That is what I was talking about, is our expectations of others. That becomes sometimes far outreached. We take these expectations into our relationships with our spouses. We impose them on our children, and the cycle continues. Why? Because our expectations are what we believe is important, what we believe should be achieved. But guess what? Other people also have mentors that have exposed these same expectations or even different expectations. So just because you have expectations doesn't mean somebody has the same expectations as you. They could be far better, they could be less, but it doesn't mean it's wrong or right. Expectations aren't bad in and out of themselves. Why? Because we all have them. They are a natural part of life. But the problem is, I see it arises when we place too much weight on the expectation of others. So what's the challenge of living by others' expectations? Why do expectations of people create such inner conflict in our lives? And these are the reasons why. Expectations are not an accurate gauge of what is right for you. Even with the best intentions, someone else's expectation of you will be based not only on who you are, but on that person's own experiences, disappointments, pains, moral values, and opinions. In other words, those expectations aren't really about you, they're about the other person. Accordingly, they're not necessarily a good compass for your life. And think about the expectations we have for our children. If you have children, we want them to do this, we have expectations to do that, because we based it on our own lives. We based it on maybe, for example, me, I didn't play Little League Baseball, but I would love to see my 4-year-old do well in Little League. Why? Because I have these expectations that are set because I didn't get a chance to play. And that's what a lot of parents do. We live our lives through our children, which is not necessarily wrong, but not necessarily right. It just depends how you perceive it. Expectations are often unrealistic because expectations are devices of the mind. They are not grounded in reality. We expect our kids to be superstars in sports. Maybe they're not athletic at all. Maybe they don't have that capabilities. But you sometimes don't take account your abilities or your desires, or even when it's possible or unreasonable. When you try to live up to unfair expectations, guess what happens? You will fail every time. Another thing about expectations, they are contradictory. Most of us have more than one person of influence in our lives. And since no two people have the same perspectives, the expectations of people will inevitably contradict each other at some point. It's statistically impossible to please everybody at once. Have you tried to please your wife, your child? Have you tried to please your boss, your coworkers? Sometimes they just don't go hand in hand. And when you try to live by others' expectations, it can be harmful. Remember, expectations are unavoidable, but when we internalize them the wrong way, it can affect us negatively in a number of ways. The number one way is it can breed anger and resentment. Why? Because it doesn't just breed resentment in the person whose expectations we fail to meet, it breeds resentment in us as well. When we deny our own desires in favor of expectations of others, we are prone to be angry or resentful. It can also cripple our own ability to make decisions. When we allow the voices of others to drown out what we want for ourselves, we lose the the ability to have an opinion. And then our self-esteem plummets. When we live up to the standards of others and we fail, we lose self-esteem, we lose self-confidence. That is why it's so important to have a strategic mindset on how to set your own expectations that we can meet and that are attainable, and then you reward yourself when you do succeed and you meet your expectations. When we have too high expectations, it can also lead to mental health issues like depression. Living a life driven by a need for approval of others leads to ultimate depression and inner conflict. The more conflicted you feel, the more afraid you are becoming of expressing your real self. So you hide yourself from others. When you're a teenager, you're so afraid of failure, you're so afraid of standing out that you hide yourself within the crowd. And that's what people do when they don't meet the expectations of maybe themselves or others. It's pressure, it's depression. It's just not a good way to live your life. We are all great in many things we do. As Gen Z and millennials and those that lead them, we have so many different talents. We have so many different ways that we can succeed, that we can better our lives, we can better our family lives, our friends' lives, the organizations that we work for, just by being ourselves. Because why? Because we all have the talents if we utilize them. We all have the drive. We all need to improve on what we do. We all need to improve on certain aspects. I know the one thing that I can always work to improve on is my attention to detail, because I am all over the place. Some people might say I'm ADHD or whatnot, because I'm all over the place, but that's how I operate. I run in 100 different miles an hour at one time, and that's what's been successful for me. But for other people, they are great attention to detail, but maybe they can't multitask and run 100 miles an hour in different ways. And that's fine. But we have to utilize the talents that we do have, and that will breed success for each one of us, each and every day of our lives. And that's why we all have different jobs. That's why we do different things. Because if we all had the same talent, we'd all do the same thing. And you'd have millions of people having one talent to do one thing. And that is just not a good way to run a society. That's why we're all different. That's why we all do different jobs. And regardless of the job we do, it's important. Because if the job didn't exist, then it wouldn't be important. Every job that exists has a reason why we do it. Now, after we've let go of others' expectations, we have to figure out how we can move forward. And these are some tips to make sure we have the ability to let go of others' expectations. If you're being driven by other expectations, it can be detrimental, as we talked about. And so the ultimate key is to begin to find expectations and putting those expectations in perspective. Remember that someone else's expectation of you is theirs, not yours. And therefore, it is their problem that you didn't meet their expectation, not yours. Understanding this one point almost immediately softens the blow of disappointment, reduces your inner anxiety and potential self-depression. Number 2 tip to letting go of others' expectations: check your own expectations of others. When you find yourself judging the behavior of others, for example, your spouse, your children, don't be afraid to examine your self-motives without self-condemnation. Learn why you form expectations will enable you to tell a lot about how other people's form theirs. The number 3 tip is to cultivate your inner voice. Take that time, take that alone time, and sincerely ask yourself what you want. A great example is to use journals. If no one else was telling you what you should want, what would you want for yourself? The number 4 tip is begin saying what you want. Don't be defensive, be affirmative, have a strong hand, but get in the habit of expressing your wants, needs, and opinion. You know why? Because they're just as valid as anyone else's. Those are the 4 tips that will help you let go of others' expectations while also letting go of the expectations that you form for others. Ultimately, the key to letting go of others' expectations is not in fighting them and certainly not resenting them, but rather keeping them in their proper place. Remember, compartmentalizing them. You can certainly benefit from the input of others. It's good to listen to others, but don't let it take you down. Think of all the sports stars. If they listen to Twitter, they listen to all the social media, politicians, or anybody that has a high-profile position. If they listen to all the criticism, they listen to all the noise, it would certainly not benefit them. So that input from others could be self-defeating and very hazardous to somebody's occupation and ultimate health. Your life is yours and yours only. You are in the best position to know what is best for you. Do not let the expectations of others get in the way of being true to who you are. We are all special. We are all successful. We all have the determination. We all have the ability, the motivation to be successful. We all have the opportunity and motivation to be successful. It is up to each and every single one of us every single day to make the best out of that day, the best out of our life, and the best to be able to move forward and be successful. If you have a goal, you have a dream, you have a drive, then you have the will and desire to be successful. Do not let anybody form an opinion of who you are. I lived up to those opinions that were formed against me early on in life. I was told I wouldn't be successful. I was told I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to. I was told I could not have the dreams and the capabilities to be successful. Today, I would say there's been a level of success. I've achieved a doctorate degree. I've wrote a book. I have a podcast that a lot of people listen to. Again, does that make me successful? No. But do I feel that I've achieved some of my dreams, some of my goals? Yes, I have. And I did not live up to the expectations of others. I did not live up to the criticism of others, because when you do that, then you will fail. And the only one that fails is when we listen to others and we let our guards down, and that's when we fail. So block out the noise, block out the negativity, and keep moving forward, because you can be your own worst enemy. But if you let those obstacles out of your way, you knock them out of your way, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to free sailing to your goals, your dreams, and you will get where you want to be. So as every day, make it a successful day. And as always, we appreciate all the listenership. We've had a great buildup of people all around the world, and we appreciate it. I appreciate it, and I love that you're listening. When I don't have any listeners is when I will no longer do a podcast. So thank you very much. Please share with your friends, family, coworkers. Subscribe, like, whatever you need to do. You can get our latest podcast right when it comes out. So again, if it's in the morning, afternoon, or night, take care, be safe, have a happy Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.